Captain Daehyun stood on the observation deck of the Horizon Shield Station, watching the distant stars flicker against the black void. For 23 years, those stars had witnessed a war that consumed hundreds of worlds. The Galactic Coalition and the Vryn Dominion had been tearing each other apart across 3 spiral arms of the galaxy. And every week, both sides sent messages asking Earth to choose a side. Every week, Earth said no. Daehyun liked it that way. He had joined Earth's defense force to protect his home, not to fight in someone else's war. The station hummed quietly around him, its weapons cold and its shields on standby. Down below, Earth spun peacefully, its cities glowing like scattered jewels. 200 years ago, humanity had almost destroyed itself. Now they had built something better. No hunger, no poverty, no pointless wars. They had learned their lesson. The door behind him slid open. Lieutenant Kyung-soo stepped inside, carrying a data tablet. The young officer looked nervous, which was unusual. Kyung-soo was normally calm and steady. "Sir, we have another request from the Coalition," Kyung-soo said quietly. "They want Ambassador Hana to attend an emergency session on their capital world." Daehyun sighed. "Let me guess. They want military support again." "Yes, sir. They say the Vryn are pushing into the Outer Rim. 3 more worlds fell last month." "And how many worlds has the Coalition destroyed?" Daehyun asked. He already knew the answer. Both sides were guilty of terrible things. Entire planets burned because of this war. Billions dead. And neither side would admit they were just as bad as the other. Kyung-soo said nothing. There was nothing to say. On Earth, in the capital city of New Geneva, Ambassador Hana prepared for yet another diplomatic meeting. She had been Earth's voice to the galaxy for 8 years. In that time, she had refused over 300 requests for military aid. The Coalition thought she was stubborn. The Dominion thought she was weak. She did not care what they thought. Hana looked at herself in the mirror, adjusting her formal jacket. She was tired. So very tired. Every day brought new images of suffering. Refugee ships limping into neutral space. Children who had lost everything. Soldiers who died for causes they barely understood. And every day someone asked her why Earth would not help. She had an answer, but nobody wanted to hear it. Her assistant knocked on the door. "Ambassador, the shuttle is ready. Admiral Jiwoo wants to speak with you before you leave." Hana walked through the corridors of the diplomatic center until she reached the secure conference room. Admiral Jiwoo was waiting inside, studying a holographic display of the Sol system. The admiral was older than Hana, with gray hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. She had commanded Earth's unified defense force for 15 years, and in that time, she had transformed it into something formidable. Not that anyone outside Earth knew how formidable. "Ambassador," Jiwoo said, nodding in greeting, "I wanted to brief you before your meeting. Our intelligence shows increased Vryn activity near the outer colonies." "How increased?" Hana asked. "Scout ships, probes. They are watching us." Jiwoo touched the display and it zoomed in on Mars. "We have detected 3 separate reconnaissance missions in the past month. They are getting bolder." Hana felt a cold weight in her stomach. "Do you think they will attack?" "I think they are considering it," Jiwoo said carefully. "The Dominion is losing the war. They need resources and they need allies. If they cannot convince us to join them, they might try to force us. Earth would never surrender." "I know. That is what worries me." Jiwoo closed the display. "Ambassador, I have kept our military preparations secret for a long time. If war comes to our door, we will be ready. But I need you to know something. If fighting starts, it will not stop quickly. Once we show what we can do, everything changes." Hana understood. Earth had spent 2 centuries developing technology in isolation. While the galaxy tore itself apart, humanity had been building, learning, advancing. They had weapons that could shatter moons, ships that could cross star systems in days instead of weeks, AI systems that could calculate 1,000 battle scenarios in seconds. But all of that power meant nothing if they never had to use it. "Keep preparing," Hana said quietly. "But I will keep talking. Maybe we can avoid this." Jiwoo smiled sadly. "I hope you are right." Far from Earth, in a hidden research facility on Titan, Dr. Taemin worked late into the night. Around him, machines hummed and holographic equations floated in the air. He was solving a problem that had troubled him for months. How do you build a weapon powerful enough to end a war, but precise enough to avoid becoming a monster yourself? Taemin did not like building weapons. He was a scientist, not a soldier. But he understood necessity. If Earth had to fight, they needed every advantage. The device on his workbench looked simple. a cylindrical core no larger than his hand. But inside that core was enough destructive potential to crack a planet's crust. He hoped they would never need to use it. His assistant, a young woman named Bora, entered the lab carrying coffee. "Doctor, you should rest. You have been working for 18 hours. Just a few more calculations," Taemin muttered. "The power containment field needs to be perfect. One mistake and it would destroy half of Titan, I know. That is why you should rest. Your brain needs sleep to function properly." Taemin smiled despite his exhaustion. Bora was right as usual. He saved his work and stood up, his joints aching. "Fine, but if the Admiral calls, wake me immediately." "Of course, Doctor." Back on the Horizon Shield, Daehyun received an alert that made his blood run cold. His sensor officer's voice came through the intercom, urgent and afraid. "Captain, we have multiple contacts entering the system. They just dropped out of faster-than-light travel near Mars." Daehyun rushed to the command center. The main display showed dozens of red markers, then hundreds. His crew worked frantically at their stations, trying to identify the ships. "Vrin Dominion signatures," Kyung-soo reported. 312 warships. "They are moving into attack formation." The communications panel lit up. A message was coming through on all frequencies. Daehyun accepted it, and a face appeared on the screen. It was a Vrin commander, his features harsh and alien. "I am Commander Tholvar of the Dominion Fleet," the alien said. His voice was translated by the computer, but the threat in it needed no translation. "Earth has refused our generous offers for too long. You will join the Dominion, or you will be conquered. You have 48 hours to decide. Choose wisely, humans. This is your only warning." The transmission ended. The command center was silent. Daehyun looked at the display, at the massive fleet surrounding Mars, and he knew that everything was about to change. Earth had stayed neutral for 23 years. They had refused to take sides in a war that was not theirs, but now the war had come to them. The emergency council meeting lasted 6 hours. Every major leader on Earth gathered in the secure chamber beneath New Geneva, arguing about what to do. Admiral Jiwoo presented military options. Ambassador Hana pleaded for more time to negotiate. The president listened to everyone, his face growing darker with each passing minute. Daehyun watched the meeting through a video link from the Horizon Shield. His crew had been on high alert for 12 hours now, and everyone was exhausted. The Vrin fleet had not moved closer, but they had not left either. They just waited, like predators watching their prey. "We should accept the coalition's offer," one council member said. "If we ally with them, they will help us fight off the Dominion." "And then what?" Hana shot back. "We become part of their war machine? We compromise everything we believe in? Better than being destroyed," another voice argued. Jiwoo stood up, her voice cutting through the argument. "We are not defenseless. I have been preparing for this possibility for 15 years. Earth has weapons and ships that can match anything the Dominion has. We do not need the coalition's help. Can we defeat 300 warships?" the president asked quietly. "Yes," Jiwoo said without hesitation, "but there will be losses, many losses." The meeting continued, but Daehyun stopped paying attention. He had a bad feeling growing in his chest, a sense that something terrible was about to happen. He looked at Kyung-soo, who was monitoring the Vrin fleet's position. "Any changes?" Daehyun asked. "No, sir. They are holding position." "Wait!" Kyung-soo's fingers flew across his console. "Sir, I'm detecting a power surge from one of their ships. The smaller one near Europa. Daehyun's sister lived on Europa. She was a scientist at the research station there, studying the ocean beneath the moon's ice. Her 2 children went to school in the station's residential section. 12,000 people lived there, all civilians, all researchers and their families. "Pull up visual feed from Europa Station," Daehyun ordered, his voice tight. The screen changed to show the beautiful ice-covered moon. The research station was a cluster of domes on the surface, connected by transparent tunnels. Daehyun could see lights inside, people going about their work, unaware of the danger above them. Then the Vrin ship opened fire. The weapons were precise and devastating. Energy beams cut through the station's shields like they were made of paper. Explosions bloomed across the surface. One dome shattered, then another. Atmosphere vented into space, carrying debris and bodies with it. The tunnels broke apart. The power generators exploded. Within 3 minutes, the entire station was destroyed, 12,000 people gone. Just like that. Daehyun could not breathe. Could not think. He watched the debris cloud expand, watched the fires die in the vacuum of space, and he felt something break inside him. Kyung-soo was shouting something. Other crew members were at their stations, reading reports, analyzing data, but Dae-hyun heard none of it. He just stared at the screen where his sister had died. A transmission came through from the Vryn fleet. Commander Tholvar appeared again, his alien face showing something that might have been satisfaction. "This is the cost of neutrality," Tholvar said. "This is what happens when you refuse the Dominion's generous offer. Join us now or your precious Earth will be next. You have 36 hours remaining." The transmission ended. For a long moment, nobody on the horizon shield spoke. Then Dae-hyun stood up, his movements slow and deliberate. He walked to the communications station. "Open a channel to Earth Command," he said. His voice sounded strange to his own ears. Cold. Dead. "Tell Admiral Jiwoo that I volunteer for the first strike mission. Whatever she is planning, I want to be part of it." On Earth, the council meeting had turned into something else. There was no more debate. No more discussion about neutrality or principles. The images from Europa had been broadcast across the planet. Everyone had seen what the Vryn had done. Everyone understood what was coming next. Ambassador Hana stood before the council, but she was not talking about peace anymore. Her hands were shaking and there were tears in her eyes, but her voice was steady. "I will send one final message to both the Coalition and the Dominion," she said. "Then I am done talking. Admiral Jiwoo, the military is yours. Do whatever you need to do." Jiwoo nodded slowly. She had been waiting for this moment, preparing for it, but she took no pleasure in it. War was never something to celebrate even when it was necessary. "Council members," Jiwoo said, "I need authorization to activate Protocol Omega. We built it hoping we would never need it. But we need it now." The president looked around the room. Every face showed the same expression. Anger, grief, determination. "Authorization granted," the president said. "End this threat. Protect our world." Jiwoo touched her communication device. All across Earth, hidden facilities received the same message. In orbit around the planet, dozens of objects that looked like old satellites suddenly activated. In the asteroid belt, what appeared to be mining stations began to move. Near Jupiter's moons, cargo ships opened up to reveal weapon systems that should not exist. Earth had not been idle during the galaxy's long war. They had been preparing, building, waiting. On Titan, Dr. Taemin received an urgent call from Admiral Jiwoo. She wanted every experimental weapon ready for deployment within 12 hours. Everything they had been testing, everything they had kept secret, all of it was now needed. Taemin looked at his assistant Bora. She had transferred from the military to help him with research. How she would have to go back to being a soldier. "We knew this day might come," Bora said quietly. "We just hoped it would not." "I know," Taemin said. "I know." He began authorizing the transport of weapons systems he had spent years developing. Railguns that could punch through any armor, missiles with fusion warheads, energy shields that could absorb and redirect enemy fire. All of it designed for one purpose: to make attacking Earth the worst decision an enemy could ever make. Somewhere in the military complex beneath New Geneva, a man named Sang-min sat in a dark room surrounded by screens. He was the director of Earth's intelligence division, and for years he had been tracking every ship, every weapon, every strategic position in the Vryn Dominion. Now all that information would be put to use. He sent targeting data to Admiral Jiwoo, supply lines, command ships, weak points in their fleet formation, everything that could give Earth an advantage. "Make them pay," Sang-min whispered to the screens. "Make them understand what they did." 20 hours after the destruction of Europa Station, Ambassador Hana sent her final diplomatic message. It was broadcast on all frequencies to every ship in the Sol system, to the Coalition capital and to the Dominion homeworld. "I am Ambassador Hana of Earth," she said. "For 23 years we watched your war and refused to participate. We believed there was a better way. We hoped that reason and peace could prevail. Today you showed us the cost of that hope. You murdered 12,000 civilians. You targeted families, children, scientists who never raised a weapon against anyone. You did this to force us to join your conflict. You wanted to see what humanity was capable of. Very well. You are about to find out." The message ended. There was no room for negotiation now. No possibility of stepping back from the edge. On the horizon shield, Daehyun stood in the hangar bay watching crews prepare Earth's warships for launch. These were not the defensive vessels the galaxy knew about. These were attack ships, fast and deadly, built in secret over decades. He would command one of them. The mission was simple. Destroy the Vryn fleet around Mars. All of it. Kyung-soo approached, now wearing a combat uniform instead of his usual station duty gear. "Sir, all ships report ready. We launch in 1 hour." Daehyun nodded. He thought about his sister. About her children. About the 12,000 people who had been alive yesterday and were now frozen corpses drifting in space. "Good," he said. "Let us go show them what happens when you pick the wrong enemy." The Vryn fleet waited near Mars, confident in their superior numbers. Commander Tholvar sat in his command chair, watching the countdown to Earth's deadline. The humans would surrender soon. They had no choice. 300 warships against a planet that had never fought a real war? The outcome was obvious. Then his sensors officer made a confused sound. "Commander, I am detecting multiple contacts emerging from the asteroid belt. They are moving fast. Very fast." Tholvar leaned forward. "How many contacts?" 40, no 60. "They keep appearing. They were hidden somehow." "Impossible," Tholvar said. "Our scans showed nothing in that region." "Sir, they are accelerating toward us. Their speed is— I have never seen anything move that fast." Tholvar watched his display as red markers appeared, multiplying like a swarm. The human ships were not just fast. They were incredibly fast. They crossed the distance from the asteroid belt to Mars in minutes, a journey that should have taken hours. "Battle stations," Tholvar shouted. "All ships, prepare to engage." But the Vryn fleet was still organizing itself when the human ships opened fire. Daehyun sat in the command chair of the warship Thunderstrike, watching his targeting display. His crew worked with cold efficiency around him. They had trained for years for this moment, running simulations, practicing tactics. Now it was real. "Target the command ships first," Daehyun ordered. "Fire at will." The Thunderstrike's railguns spoke. Metal projectiles accelerated to a fraction of light speed, crossing the distance to the Vryn fleet in seconds. They hit with devastating force. The first Vryn command ship's shields flashed bright, then collapsed. The projectiles punched through the hull, and the ship broke apart in a silent explosion. All around Daehyun's ship, the rest of Earth's fleet was doing the same thing. The Vryn had numbers, but humanity had technology they could not match. The human ships moved like dancers, their advanced propulsion systems allowing them to change direction instantly. Vryn weapons fired where the human ships had been, not where they were. Bo-Ra, now serving as tactical officer on the Thunderstrike, coordinated the attack with mathematical precision. She had helped design many of these weapon systems. Now she used them exactly as intended. "Target destroyed," she reported calmly. "Moving to next target." Enemy formation is breaking apart. Tholvar watched in growing horror as his fleet fell apart. 60 human ships were destroying 300 Vryn warships. It should have been impossible. Every tactical simulation said it was impossible. But it was happening. "Return fire," he screamed. "Focus all weapons on single targets." The Vryn fleet finally coordinated their response. Dozens of ships concentrated their energy weapons on one human vessel. The human ship's shields held for several seconds, glowing brighter and brighter. Then suddenly the enemy fire seemed to bend away, redirected by some technology the Vryn had never seen. "Their shields are reflecting our weapons," someone shouted. "Then use missiles. Overwhelm them." The Vryn launched thousands of missiles. The human ships responded by deploying small drones that intercepted the missiles before they could hit. The few missiles that got through exploded harmlessly against the human shields. After 4 hours of combat, 87 Vryn ships were destroyed or disabled. The human fleet had lost 3 ships, and even those had been evacuated before they were destroyed. Tholvar gave the order he never thought he would give. "Retreat. All ships, retreat immediately." The surviving Vryn ships fled, jumping to faster-than-light travel as quickly as they could. The human ships did not pursue. They had accomplished their mission. The Sol system was secure. Daehyun watched the enemy retreat on his display. He felt no satisfaction, no joy, just emptiness. His sister was still dead. The 12,000 people on Europa were still gone. Winning this battle did not bring them back. "All ships return to Earth orbit," he said quietly. "Well done, everyone." On Earth, Admiral Jiwoo watched the battle reports with mixed feelings. They had won decisively. Earth's technological advantage was even greater than she had calculated, but this was just the beginning. The Vryn would not stop after one defeat. They would regroup, bring more ships, try different tactics, and now the galaxy knew Earth's secret. They were not weak. They were not defenseless. They were dangerous. Jiwoo opened a secure channel to Sangmin's intelligence center. Do you have locations on Vryn supply bases? 17 confirmed locations, Sangmin replied. Already sending the coordinates to the fleet commanders. Good. We are not waiting for them to attack again. We take the fight to them. Over the next 3 weeks, Earth's military launched operations across 3 sectors of space. Strike groups hit Vryn supply depots, destroyed repair stations, and cut off reinforcement routes. A young pilot named Hyunwoo became famous after a mission where his fighter craft was ambushed by 23 Vryn interceptors. He destroyed all of them and returned to his carrier without a scratch. The Vryn military leadership began to panic. They were supposed to be conquering Earth, not defending their own territory. How had this happened? How had one planet that never fought wars become so deadly? Commander Tholvar, disgraced and stripped of his command, watched the reports from a detention cell on the Vryn homeworld. He had been blamed for the disaster at Mars. The Dominion needed someone to punish, and he was convenient. But as he watched Earth's forces tear through Vryn positions, he realized something terrifying. The humans were not just defending themselves. They were angry. And an angry human, it turned out, was far more dangerous than anyone had imagined. The Galactic Coalition observed Earth's military campaign with great interest. Their analysts studied every battle, trying to understand human technology. Some coalition leaders saw an opportunity. If they could convince Earth to join them now, they could use human weapons to finally defeat the Dominion. Ambassador Hana received yet another request for alliance. This time, the coalition offered technology sharing, trade agreements, and formal apologies for not helping Earth earlier. She read the message and felt disgust. They are like vultures, she told her assistant. They watch us bleed and now they want to profit from it. What will you tell them? Her assistant asked. The truth. We are not fighting for them. We are fighting for ourselves. They can watch from the sidelines just like they did for 23 years. On Titan, Dr. Taemin worked frantically to keep up with military demands. Every week, the admirals wanted new weapons, better shields, faster ships. He barely slept. His research team worked around the clock. But one night, as he reviewed casualty reports, something inside him broke. He had designed a particular missile system. It was supposed to target only military vessels, but in a recent battle, the missiles had accidentally destroyed Vryn escape pods trying to flee a damaged ship. 300 enemy soldiers had died. They were the enemy, yes. They were part of the force that had attacked Earth. But they had also been retreating, trying to survive, and his weapons had killed them. Taemin sat in his lab staring at the casualty report, wondering when he had stopped being a scientist and became a creator of death. The numbers on the screen blurred as tears filled his eyes. Bora found him there an hour later. She had taken leave from military service to check on him. She sat down beside him without saying anything. I never wanted this, Taemin said finally. I just wanted to protect Earth. I know, Bora said softly. But this is the world now. We can regret it or we can try to end it as quickly as possible. How many more will die before it ends? I do not know. But I know it will be worse if we lose. While Earth's forces won battle after battle, the Vryn Dominion leadership held emergency meetings. Some argued for peace. Others demanded total war. The hardliners won. If they could not defeat Earth in space, they would target human colonies outside the Sol system. The Dominion gathered a new fleet, larger than before, and sent it toward Proxima Station, humanity's first colony beyond Earth. 50,000 civilians lived there. Families who had left Earth decades ago to build new lives among the stars. Intelligence Director Sang Min detected the Vryn fleet's movement, but it was too late. Daehyun's main battle group was 6 days away at maximum speed. The only Earth ship in range was the experimental carrier Phoenix Dawn, commanded by a rookie captain named Jaehwa. Jaehwa was young, untested in real combat, and commanding a ship that was still in its trial phase. When she received the warning about the approaching Vryn fleet, she understood that she was all that stood between 50,000 civilians and death. She called her crew together and told them the truth. We are alone. We are outnumbered 40 to 1. And if we run, everyone on that station dies. So we are not running. We are going to hold the line until the main fleet arrives. Her crew, most of them as young and inexperienced as she was, looked at her with wide eyes. Then one by one they nodded. "We are with you, Captain," her first officer said. HFY nodded back, trying to hide her fear. "Then let us go save some lives." The Phoenix Dawn arrived at Proxima Station hours before the Vryn fleet. Captain HFY used every minute to prepare. She positioned her carrier near the station's defensive grid and linked her ship's systems with the station's weapons. It would not be enough. She knew it would not be enough. But maybe she could buy enough time for the main fleet to arrive. A civilian engineer on the station named Minho volunteered to help. He knew the station's systems better than anyone. He had built half of them himself over the past 10 years. When HFY explained what they were facing, Minho did not hesitate. "I can rig the main reactor to create an electromagnetic pulse," he said. "It would disable any ships within 1,000 kilometers. But it would also destroy the station's power systems. We would have maybe 3 hours of backup power after that." "Do it," HFY ordered. 3 hours might be all we need." The Vryn fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel in attack formation. 40 warships against 1 carrier and a civilian station. The Vryn commander sent no message, no demands. They simply opened fire. HFY's carrier launched all its fighters. 60 small craft against an armada. The fighters darted between the Vryn ships, targeting weapons systems and engines. The Phoenix Dawn itself used its railguns to destroy incoming missiles. The station's defense grid added its own firepower to the battle. For 30 minutes they held. Then the Vryn started to coordinate their attacks. The fighter squadrons took heavy losses. The carrier's shields began to fail. HFY watched her tactical display as red markers multiplied around her ship. "Minho, activate the EMP," she said. Now, on the station, Minho entered the command sequence. The reactor's magnetic containment fields collapsed in a controlled way, releasing a massive pulse of electromagnetic energy. It spread out from the station like an invisible wave. When it hit the Vryn ships, their systems went dead. Lights went out. Engines stopped. Weapons fell silent. Half the Vryn fleet was disabled, but the pulse also damaged the Phoenix Dawn. HFY's carrier lost power to its weapon systems. Emergency lights flickered on across the ship. "How long until weapons are back online?" HFY asked. Her engineer checked the systems, his face pale. "We are looking at 20 minutes at least. The EMP damaged our primary power relays. 20 minutes. The Vryn ships that were still functional would recover long before that." HFY made a decision. She had known from the beginning that this mission might require sacrifice. She had accepted that when she refused to run. "All crew, this is the captain," she said over the ship's intercom. "Evacuate to the escape pods. I am setting a collision course with the Vryn flagship. You have 5 minutes." "Captain, no," her first officer shouted. "There has to be another way." "There is not. Get everyone off this ship. That is an order." Her crew abandoned ship, launching in dozens of escape pods toward Proxima Station. HFY stayed on the bridge alone, manually piloting the damaged carrier toward the largest Vryn ship. Her vessel was dying, but it had enough momentum left for one final act. The Phoenix Dawn struck the Vryn flagship at tremendous speed. Both ships exploded in a flash of light that could be seen from the station. The shockwave disabled 3 more Vryn vessels. On Proxima Station, Minho watched the explosion and wept. He had never met Captain HFY in person. They had only spoken over communications during the battle. But she had saved his life, and the lives of everyone on the station. 4 days later, Daehyun's fleet arrived to find the station damaged but intact, and 32 disabled Vryn ships drifting in space. The remaining Vryn vessels had fled after watching their flagship destroyed. 8,000 civilians had died in the battle, but 42,000 survived because a young captain had refused to abandon them. Daehyun stood on the bridge of the Thunder Strike, reading the battle report. Another victory. Another pile of bodies. He was tired of counting victories. On Earth, Admiral Jiwoo reviewed the casualty numbers from 6 weeks of warfare. Earth had won every major engagement. The Vryn were retreating across multiple fronts, but the cost was growing. 3,000 Earth soldiers dead, 19 ships destroyed. And the civilians, Europa Station, Proxima Station, smaller outposts that had been caught in the fighting. The numbers kept climbing. She sat in her office late at night staring at names on a screen. Each name was a person. Each person had a family, and she had sent them all into battle. A message arrived from Ambassador Hana. They needed to talk. They met in a secure conference room. Hana looked as tired as Jiwoo felt. Neither had slept properly in weeks. The war was consuming everything, leaving no room for rest or peace. I have been contacted by the coalition again, Hana said without greeting. They want to offer military assistance. But Intelligence Director Sang-min discovered something. The coalition has been deliberately avoiding Vrin forces in sectors where we are fighting. They are letting us do all the work. Why? Jiwoo asked, though she suspected she already knew. So they can study our tactics and technology. They are not trying to help us. They are trying to learn from us. Both the coalition and the Dominion have been playing us from the beginning. The Dominion thought we were weak and tried to conquer us. The coalition thinks we are strong and wants to exploit us. Jiwoo felt anger rise in her chest. So the entire galaxy sees us as tools. Weapons to be used. Yes, and if we keep fighting, we prove them right. We become what they want us to be. A military power that solves problems with force. What choice do we have? If we stop now, the Vrin will regroup and attack again. Hana leaned forward. I am not saying we should stop. I am saying we need to think about what comes after. When this war ends, what kind of world do we want to be? Do we want to be conquerors? Do we want to be feared across the galaxy? We already are feared, Jiwoo said quietly. I know. That is the problem. On Titan, Dr. Taemin had stopped sleeping entirely. His work consumed him. He designed weapons by day and lay awake at night thinking about how they would be used. Bora stayed with him trying to keep him functional, but she could see him breaking apart. You need to rest, she told him one evening. You are going to collapse. I will rest when the war ends, Taemin said. He was working on a new project, something he had not shown anyone yet. A weapon that could end the conflict quickly. But the price would be terrible. What is that? Bora asked, looking at his calculations. Taemin hesitated. A quantum disruptor. It phases matter out of normal space. Anything hit by it simply ceases to exist in our reality. No explosion, no debris, just gone. Bora stared at the equations. That is terrifying. Yes, but if the Vrin bring their full fleet to Earth, we might need it. Something that can end the battle before they can hurt more civilians. And who decides when to use such a weapon? Admiral Jiwoo, I assume. Or the President. Taemin rubbed his eyes. I do not want to build it. But I do not want more people to die either. What choice do I have? Bora had no answer. In the Vrin Dominion, the government was falling apart. Military commanders blamed politicians for starting a war they could not win. Politicians blamed commanders for losing battles. The hardliners still demanded total victory. The moderates begged for peace negotiations. Commander Tholvar, still imprisoned for his failure at Mars, watched the chaos from his cell. He had been right to attack Earth. The humans were dangerous. They needed to be stopped before they became too powerful. But he had failed. And now the entire Dominion would pay the price. One night, a sympathizer among the guards helped Tholvar escape. He stole a small ship and weapons from a military depot. He also stole something else, a device that the Dominion had been developing in secret for years, a planet killer. The weapon was experimental, never tested, possibly unstable. But Tholvar did not care. He had lost his honor, his position, everything he valued. The only thing left was revenge. If he could not defeat Earth's military, he would destroy Earth itself. He set course for the Sol system alone in a stolen ship, carrying a weapon that could ignite a planet's atmosphere and turn it into a burning hell. On Earth, Intelligence Director Sang-min detected the stolen ship 3 days after it left Vrin space. He tracked its course and realized where it was heading. More importantly, he realized what it was carrying. He immediately contacted Admiral Jiwoo. We have a problem, he said. Tholvar is coming to Earth with a planet-killer device. If he gets close enough to deploy it, everyone on Earth dies. Jiwoo felt ice in her veins. How long until he arrives? 4 days. Maybe 5. Can we intercept him? Our nearest ships are 6 days away. We have nothing close enough. Jiwoo made a call to Titan. Dr. Taemin answered, looking exhausted. Doctor, I need your quantum disruptor. Is it functional? Taemin's face went pale. It is finished, but I have not tested it. I do not know if it will work. We need it anyway. We have an incoming threat, one ship, one very dangerous weapon. Normal weapons might not stop it in time. We need something that can remove it from existence instantly. Admiral, the disruptor has never been tested. The calculations suggest it will work, but there could be side effects. Unpredictable side effects. What kind of side effects? A permanent rift in space-time. It might be small. It might be large. We do not know, Jiwoo closed her eyes. A terrible weapon to stop a terrible weapon. This is what war did to people. It forced impossible choices. Prepare it for deployment, she ordered. We will use it only if we have no other option. Yes, Admiral. Jiwoo ended the call and sat alone in her office. Outside, Earth spun peacefully in space, unaware that in 4 days a madman would try to burn it all away. She had spent 15 years preparing to defend her world. Now she had to decide if she was willing to scar space itself to save it. Tholvar's stolen ship entered the Sol system on schedule. Every sensor on every defense platform detected him immediately. Admiral Jiwoo mobilized everything she had. The Horizon Shield Station, now repaired and reinforced, took point position. Captain Dae-hyun commanded the defense fleet from the Thunderstrike. Lieutenant Kyung-soo, now promoted to commander, coordinated the sensor networks. He is not even trying to hide, Kyung-soo reported. He is heading straight for Earth at maximum speed. Good, Dae-hyun said. That makes him easier to hit. But hitting Tholvar was not the problem. Stopping the planet killer device was the problem. If they destroyed his ship, the device might detonate anyway. If they let him get too close, he could activate it before they could react. They needed to remove him from reality completely. Dr. Tae-min worked frantically on the Horizon Shield, installing the quantum disruptor into a missile housing. Bora helped him, her hands steady even as her heart raced. The weapon looked simple from the outside, just a standard missile with unusual internal components. But if Taemin's calculations were correct, this missile would punch a hole between dimensions. The timing has to be perfect, Taemin explained to Admiral Jiwoo over the communications link. Commander Bora needs to fire when Tholvar is exactly 700 kilometers from Earth's atmosphere. Closer, and the rift might destabilize our orbit. Further, and he might have time to launch the planet killer manually. 700 kilometers, Jiwoo repeated. Not 699. Not 701. Exactly. Jiwoo looked at Bora on the screen. The young woman had gone from research assistant to soldier to weapons officer in just a few months. Now the survival of their entire world rested on her ability to fire a weapon at exactly the right moment. Commander Bora, Jiwoo said formally, do you understand the responsibility I am giving you? Yes, Admiral, Bora replied. Her voice was calm. I will not fail. Tholvar ignored all attempts at communication. He did not care what the humans had to say. He had come to deliver judgment. The planet killer device sat in his cargo bay fully armed. When he reached Earth's atmosphere, he would activate it. The device would create a chain reaction that would ignite the atmosphere. Within hours, all life on the planet would burn. He thought about his lost honor, about how the humans had humiliated the Dominion. This was justice. This was necessary. His sensors detected the human defense fleet moving to intercept. He smiled. They could not stop him. He was willing to die. In fact, he expected to die. But he would take Earth with him. Dae-hyun's fleet opened fire at maximum range. Energy beams and railgun projectiles filled space. Tholvar's shields held. The stolen ship was military-grade, designed to withstand heavy fire. He kept coming. Distance to atmosphere? Dae-hyun asked. 3,000 kilometers and closing, Kyung-soo reported. He is maintaining course and speed. On the Horizon Shield, Bora sat at her weapons console. The quantum disruptor missile was loaded and ready. Her targeting computer tracked Tholvar's ship perfectly. The countdown ran in the corner of her screen. Distance to target. Time to intercept. Margin of error. 0. Taemin stood beside her watching the numbers change. He had done everything he could. Built the weapon. Checked every calculation. Now it was up to Bora and physics. 2,000 kilometers, Kyung-soo announced. All across Earth, people watched the sky. They knew something was happening. Emergency broadcasts told them to seek shelter, though shelter would mean nothing if the planet killer activated. They could only watch and hope. 1,000 kilometers. Tholvar reached for the planet killer's activation switch. Just a few more minutes. Just a little closer. 800 kilometers. Bora's finger hovered over the firing button. Her eyes were locked on the distance counter. 701, 700.5. She breathed slowly, steadily. 700 kilometers, she whispered, and pressed the button. The quantum disruptor missile launched. It crossed the distance to Tholvar's ship in 3 seconds. When it struck, there was no explosion. Instead, reality seemed to fold inward. Space-time bent around the ship, colors shifting through spectrums that should not exist. Then suddenly, the ship was simply gone. Not destroyed, not broken apart. Just absent, as if it had never been there at all. In the place where the ship had been, something remained. A rift. A tear in the fabric of space. It looked like a wound in the sky, a place where the normal laws of physics did not quite apply. It was not large, perhaps 100 meters across, but it was permanent. Target eliminated, Bora reported, her voice shaking now that the moment had passed. The planet killer is gone. A cheer went up across the defense fleet. On Earth, billions of people celebrated. They had been hours from extinction. Now they were safe. The rift in space would remain forever, a reminder of how close they had come to annihilation. But they were alive. Daehyun sat back in his command chair, feeling exhaustion wash over him. It was done. The threat was ended. But he felt no triumph, just tired relief. Admiral Jiwoo made the announcement herself. The Vrin threat to Earth has been eliminated. All defense forces are to stand down from combat alert. Maintain standard patrol patterns only. Then she opened a secure channel to Ambassador Hana. It is time. Contact the Vrin government. Tell them we are willing to discuss peace terms. The negotiations took 3 weeks. The Vrin Dominion's government, already fractured by military defeats, agreed quickly to terms. They would pay reparations for the attack on Europa Station. They would acknowledge Earth's sovereignty and independence. They would retreat from all human-claimed territories. In exchange, Earth would not pursue further military action against Vrin worlds. The war was over. The Galactic Coalition, watching from the sidelines, immediately requested a formal alliance with Earth. They offered technology, trade routes, favorable political positions. Ambassador Hana read their proposal and almost laughed. "They think we need them," she told Admiral Jiwoo. "They think we are so desperate for friends that we will forget how they watched us fight alone." "What will you tell them?" Hana thought for a long moment. "The truth. That Earth will never again stand aside when innocents suffer. But we will not be anyone's weapon. We will not join their coalition. We will build something different." She drafted a response that would change galactic politics forever. Earth would not ally with the coalition or the Dominion. Instead, Earth would create a new organization, the Terran Guard, a peacekeeping force dedicated to preventing atrocities, protecting civilians, and mediating conflicts. Both the coalition and the Dominion would be invited to participate as equal members. "You are asking them to work together," Jiwoo said when she read the proposal. "They have been enemies for 23 years. I know. But if we can force them to cooperate under neutral oversight, maybe we can prevent the next war before it starts. Is that not worth trying?" Jiwoo smiled slightly. "You have not given up on diplomacy. Never. Violence is sometimes necessary, but it should never be the first choice." The proposal was sent. Both sides rejected it initially. But over months of negotiation, as Earth demonstrated it would share its advanced medical technology with any world that participated in the Terran Guard, opinions began to shift. Suffering worlds joined first, then trading partners. Eventually, even Coalition and Dominion core worlds started to participate. It was not perfect. It was not even easy. But it was progress. Daehyun retired from military service 6 months after the war ended. He could not command ships anymore. Every time he sat in a captain's chair, he saw the Europa Station exploding. He saw Captain Jae-hwa's carrier ramming the Vrin flagship. He saw too many ghosts. He returned to Europa. The station had been rebuilt, bigger and better than before. In the center of the main dome, a memorial garden grew. 12,000 names were carved into crystal walls. His sister's name, her children's names. all the others who had died for no reason except that they were convenient targets. Dae-hyun tended the garden. It was quiet work, peaceful work. Sometimes people came to remember their own lost loved ones. He would sit with them and listen to their stories. It helped a little. Dr. Taemin shut down most of his weapons research. He converted his laboratory on Titan into a medical research facility instead. Bora stayed to help him. They worked on healing now, not killing. It felt better. "Do you regret building the quantum disruptor?" Bora asked him one day. "Yes and no," Taemin admitted. "I regret that it was necessary, but I do not regret saving Earth. Sometimes there are no good choices, only less terrible ones." Admiral Jiwoo restructured Earth's military completely. Instead of attack fleets, they built defense networks. Instead of weapons platforms, they built evacuation systems. The Terran Guard grew under her leadership, becoming a real force for stability in the galaxy. Commander Kyung-soo, now a captain, commanded one of the Guard's patrol groups. He stopped 6 pirate raids and mediated 2 territorial disputes in his first year. It was not as dramatic as the war, but it mattered more. Minho, the engineer from Proxima Station, became famous across the colony worlds. He traveled to developing stations, teaching people how to build better defense grids, safer reactors, more resilient systems. Everywhere he went, he told the story of Captain Jae-hwa, how she had refused to abandon them, how she had sacrificed everything to buy time for them to survive. The story inspired others. It reminded them that courage was not about winning. It was about standing your ground when standing mattered. Intelligence Director Sang Min built a new network, not for spying on enemies, but for sharing information about threats to civilians. Pirates, slavers, warlords. The Terran Guard could not be everywhere, but good intelligence meant they could be where they were needed most. Ambassador Hana stood before the Galactic Assembly 2 years after the war ended. She had been elected to lead the Terran Guard's Civilian Oversight Committee, Earth's member on the Trilateral Council, that now mediated disputes between coalition, dominion, and independent worlds. "We refuse to join your conflict," she said to the gathered representatives. "We believed there was a better way. You forced us to fight, and we showed you what humanity could do. Now we choose to show you what humanity should do. We build peace, not because it is easy, not because it is profitable, but because it is necessary. Because if we do not, the next war will be worse than the last, and none of us can afford that." The Assembly voted to expand the Terran Guard's authority, to give it more resources, more ships, more jurisdiction. It was not a perfect solution. There would still be conflicts, still be suffering, but it was better than what came before. Above Earth, the rift in space remained. The locals called it the Scar. It shimmered in the sunlight, a permanent reminder of the day Thulvar tried to burn their world. Tour ships brought visitors to see it. Parents brought children to explain what war meant, what it cost, why peace was worth fighting for. Dae-hyun sometimes stood in his garden on Europa and looked up at the sky, knowing the Scar was up there even though he could not see it from the station. He thought about his sister, about all the people who died, about all the people who lived because others had been willing to stand between them and annihilation. The galaxy had learned a lesson, not to start wars with Earth, but more importantly, that Earth would not stand aside when others suffered, that humanity would fight when necessary, but would always prefer to build rather than destroy. It was not the future they had wanted, but it was the future they had earned, and it was better than the alternative.